Hey, what's up my friends? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor and I help people navigate through their spiritual awakening or their ascension process. And today I'm going to talk about the dark night of the soul and how many people, perhaps you, find themselves going through it again for a second time, oftentimes worse than the first time. So briefly, the dark night of the soul, at least the way I look at it, I believe a lot of people have, it's like overly defined as a legitimate experience. Rather, I see it more of just a convenient label to classify an aspect of this spiritual unfoldment we're going on. Meaning, it tends to refer to when things aren't going very well on all levels in a very incredibly intense way. You know, we're always fluctuating through varying degrees of things kind of going well for us while things are also breaking down and we're manifesting our problems. And it's usually some sort of balance of those two things, good and bad. But the dark night of the soul, it's like when it's all bad, horribly bad. You feel like a mess. Maybe you're really sick. You got some kind of like illness or some kind of crazy thing going on with your health. Your life is not going well. It's not going the way you want it. It's not going the way you thought it would or should. In fact, you're having a lot of problems. You feel you don't have that sense of hope and faith and knowingness. That's gone. And you feel just abandoned in a miserable existence that just involves intense suffering. That's kind of like the whole dark night of the soul. And I believe that experience happens in the beginning a lot of times because people are still shocked by just the nature of the awakening, this deconstruction, destructive sort of process. It's a lot to assimilate when you discover that everything you thought you knew was bullshit and it's completely different. It just blows your mind wide open. It takes time to cope and come to terms with the fact that your physical health is a little bit of a mess due to this awakening, that your life is up and down. You're so sensitive to everything that many people don't even want to go out in public. And it can be just like you were living your ordinary life, and then all of a sudden, all of this is happening. All of this has been just thrown onto your plate, and that, I think, that shock, that initial intensity can oftentimes be like the dark night of the soul in people's minds. But I'm talking about the second phase, the second time through, where you've been through that. You've been on this path a little while. It's nothing too new to you. You get your synchronicities. You've had your little divine experiences, and you've made some life progress. And maybe many years later, you find yourself in that dark night place again, where everything is just a mess. Again, you feel cut off. Everything you've been through seems to have been for absolutely nothing, because here you are again, abandoned by your angels, by your higher guidance, and you're suffering, and there's not a shred of hope in sight. That's the second time, and that can be a little bit more unwanted because you feel entitled. I've been through this for so long. I've paid my dues. I put in my time. Where's this leading? It's obviously leading freaking nowhere because I'm here, stuck in the goddamn dark night of the soul again. But this one is different. This is a real awesome sign. The way I'm going to steal this, someone else described this better than myself in reference to something a little bit different, but there's this guy named Brad Johnson. He's like a channeler. And he was talking about how for a long time this ascension process was like the energies are coming in and they're sort of cracking our ego shell. They're making these little like holes. So, you know, we're kind of being cracked open essentially. But there comes a point where that whole shell is completely just obliterated. And then everything is just flying up at you. All these old emotions, these deep very deep past life type of primal fears are so intensely just flailing up at you. And as this happens, it's manifested in your reality. And that experience is that second dark night of the soul. And though it's intense, though it's like you're just holding on for dear life, wondering if you're ever going to come out of this psychologically sound. But what's happening again is you've just allowed yourself to take the awakening to a whole nother depth, to a whole nother level. And as always, the payoff is going to match what you're going through. You will emerge out of this not someone who's come to terms with the awakening, but as a different person, a transformed person. We have the desire to be the awakened one, the illustrious one. But to have that, we must actually become that. And we all have so much inside of us that is in direct opposition to us being that person. And this second dark night is where you're just bombarded and confronted with a whole lot of it at a greater intensity than you're accustomed to. There's nothing I can say that's going to make you feel better in this experience. But if you can recognize it for what it is, which is a major, not a stepping stone, that doesn't do it justice, a major ascent, a big old leap, a big jump. But you're not just jumping on to this next level of consciousness. You on the way, you're jumping through all of your stuff that is now have been loosened up, so it can finally fall away. But again, it's a transition. It's not just one night. It's not just one jump. It's a transition. So if you find yourself going through this, if you've been on this path for a long time, and you feel that it's not fair that you're going through such intense challenges right now, then you're likely going through this dark night of the soul type of experience yet again. And again, the implications is that on the other side of that, you will finally start to really, in a very noticeable way to yourself and to other people, become that, there's a dog coming towards me, become that person that you know yourself to be. It won't be just an idea in the future. It will be who you are now. This, many times I talk about, hey buddy, many times I talk about when I closed down my gym. I had a pretty firmly established life that I created post-awakening, and everything was just going fine. And then all of a sudden, my life started breaking down to an extreme that I was not used to. And it just made no sense because I really thought I was getting somewhere. And combined with that was a whole bunch of those intense, deep, core, primal emotions, as I was referring to. Those were all flailing up at me. And just the totality of that experience was so scary and so miserable, and I was just cut off. All the different spiritual techniques that used to be work for me, like I would mess around with tarot cards and I'd meditate and I'd see synchronicity, and that was always like a way to kind of like let me know the next step. At this point, when I needed my guidance the most, none of those things worked. It was just all, I was just cut off. But that forced me to become more self-reliant. That forced me to emerge into a level of self-empowerment that I never knew was possible. And that has not gone away since. I had a goal, a dream, a vision. I wanted to be a certain type of person, an energy, a state of being. And I attracted into my life everything I needed to actually make that happen. Hence, this second dark night of the soul. So if you're going through this, it means you're really letting go. You're really allowing. You're really finally going somewhere to where it's going to start to accumulate into actual, tangible, real life benefits that will make this entire path worth your while. So don't give up. Hang in there. We'll be in touch. See you tomorrow. Namaste.